Hello there, this is Three of Spades, and I've just about finished them all now. So there's a bunch of things that I've done. This is basically pretty much complete by now, so I'm going to end up going to other maps here soon. But I was able to actually optimize the frame rate to run a lot faster. And the way I was able to do this was, well, as of late I've been playing Gears of War, and it got me thinking about the Source engine and Unreal Engine 3 and how they went about doing textures in there. And I remembered very vaguely that they used a lot lower resolution textures, because Unreal Engine 4 and 5 tend to have all these model packs that try to seem impressive by having like 2K or 4K textures. So what I did was I looked for the actual texture in the material and found that a lot of them were imported at 2K, you guessed it. And what I was able to do was get the color texture, and I was able to size it down to something small that you'd barely notice, like 256 here, when before it was 2K, and that still looked good. I mean, even when it was 2K, it still looked blurry, but the way I was able to make it not look super flat was I went in and set the normal map to one value higher, because the way that they do this is to the power of 2. So you would go, I mean, basic shit like 256, 512, 1024, 2048, and 4096. And I found this trick out, I think, around by the end of Game Guru in the first game's development. It was a bit less refined then, but since Unreal Engine 4 allows me to do this without having to go into Paint.net and do it all manually, I could just do it here, set the value to like a fraction of its size before, and you'd have much more performance with barely any noticeable change. So, for instance, with say like, go upstairs here. Let's have a look at the wall. This wall, after I was kind of experimenting with it, I was able to go in, turn the quality to about 256, and then have the normal map be just one higher, which gave it more details. So the texture underneath is blurry, but the normal map makes it look a lot better than it really is. And doing this gets me like about 100 frames a second on 2012 and 2017 computer hardware. Like I have a CPU, an AMD FX CPU from 2012. And it's running this little area, this little deathmatch map at about 100 frames on the high settings. So I just went through, like, did all this little stuff. Like this here. This is also 256 color texture. And the only way you would really even notice that is if you're, like, this close. Or maybe that close. But doing that, a small, if barely any noticeable difference in graphics, where I optimize the textures, results in about 100 frames a second, on average. There were some that couldn't be done, like this. This is still a 2K beer sign and menu there. The shelf I also did because the actual textures themselves looked fairly dirty, and you can usually find a lot of luck with that. Like Call of Duty, for the longest time, what they did is they had very muddy textures, which, same trick, basically means if you have less texture memory being allocated into the VRAM, less resolution, basically, your level's going to run a lot faster. So I look at games from the Xbox 360, realize their textures are kind of muddy, but the best way to fix that would be to use higher quality normal maps and other maps there, so they don't appear like they're super blurry. And I even lower this to something like, the lowest settings, That's the lowest. That doesn't look bad at all. Really, a good part of optimizing levels, I find, is just making it look convincingly bad. Like this wall here was already kind of blurry, as is. So I lowered the resolution as well, and just did this on different objects, like this and that. Like, even if you're, like, face up with this shit, you're barely gonna notice, because you can still see the fingerprints and dirt on the fucking soda logo with the V and the star and whatever else. That's a lower res texture. But it's clever trickery like that that can get you a huge increase to performance. So, let me show you how it is in action. And I'm also going to show off the new character textures, because I've also been improving the camos, and I've properly made factions for the game now. So the rebels are in red, and the Empire is in blue. But it's not just like, you know, typical red and blue. It's camouflage. It's a custom texture that was made. I've slowed them down a bit for the bless me, for the sake of this, and I'm going to show you kind of how they work. So as we can see, they've also been renamed. Well, some of them anyway. Sword and shield, hammer, sickle. Now the bots have proper custom names. They can still aim pretty well. One thing I am also planning is to remove the sprint, because I kind of just find that the sprint becomes really disruptive after a while, like especially if you're playing zombies, and in order to actually move at a speed you would want, you'd have to just, like, basically keep pressing the button over and over like I'm doing, which just hurts your pinky. What I figured I could do instead is just take the Counter-Strike approach, where if you have a heavier gun, you move slower, like this light machine gun here. Like this speed versus, you know, this, if I'm sprinting, speed. But you're not actually sprinting. Like, it's a bit, say, like Doom in 2016, basically, is the idea. Mixed with a bit of Counter-Strike. But as you can tell, it's not really stuttering terribly too much, if at all. I mean, me getting my ass whooped by bots aside, it runs a lot better. And even with all this shit up at high, and high is going to be the maximum, there's not going to be ultra settings for the game, just because I find ultra settings are kind of unnecessary. And that's just the same thing that it was in Rogue Planet. So you'll just highest, medium, and lowest, basically. And then you could fuck around with it with sliders, which was a pretty good system that I like. I just want to improve upon in Rogue Planet 2 here. But yeah, I was able to mess around with this a lot. There's some of the different variants. I've added a few light machine guns up here, because what's a fun mall without a gun store that has all the racks of guns open? Because fuck it, it's the apocalypse, right? It's raining death and fire from above, and if the world goes to hell, you might as well take a big gun. But you can see in motion, it looks like it's unstable, but it doesn't look like it's hard to tell where is what, and, you know, all of that. And there's a lot more ashes on screen as a result of using FXAA as opposed to TAA. And also, I get wrecked by a dude with a, you know, this fucking gun. There's more medkits as well, so if you do get spawn trapped, you have more opportunities to survive, and you just pick them up by going next to them, which is pretty handy. So, yeah, just wanted to show this off. I'm going to go to the next map, which is a test map, and I am going to show you some of the guns that I've been messing with. Nope. I meant to press the quit button. Okay. But I'm going to show you some of the guns that I've been messing with. And I'm going to show these guys off in the daylight. There's not going to be any day maps. I've just decided to make it all at night, so it is all a lot more moody and atmospheric, and also so I can do some more crazy, like galaxy skyboxes and other stuff. like the dark and stormy mall I figured would be fun to turn into a death snow globe, so fuck it, why not? Let's do some outer space shit too. So what I'm going to do is, since that's going to just stall up on me, I'm going to do a quick Alt-Tab and get out of there. So then, let me find old FPSK. And I'm going to go into the features map. And then I'm going to load this up. They're already here, of course, thankfully. Let me hop in here real quick. And this is the splash screen of George. So, needless to say, if I boot this up, I'm not gonna, forget which project it is. If you want George to be there, don't worry, he never leaves. So the default names are Rebel Scum and Fascist Pig, or Imperial Pig, I should say. And he shot me down there, so I'm going to have to make it so he can't. But here's the Rebel, at least. Or the Imperial. So by default, you're on the Empire. But he also has a camouflaged gun. Another thing I've been messing with. As you can see, there's a custom camo. He's wearing a custom blue, and it's a bit dirty and a bit shiny. Now, the reason why it's a bit shiny is because I didn't want to do the typical neon lights that everybody else does, but I still wanted you to be able to see him in the dark. And adding a slight plasticky glow look to him. Didn't know he'd spawn over there. Rebel Scum. Didn't think I'd have to play a team deathmatch in order to show you my own shit, but anyway. I'm gonna shoot this guy in the head repeatedly. There's gonna be ammo crates as well. I'll probably put around the map. Let me show you these guns. So, I'm gonna show you the reloaded speed here. That should be improved. So one thing I'm doing is I'm also speeding up the speed of the guns. So that way it doesn't feel as sluggish. You can also see it can penetrate through wood. So the reload won't be that fast, but it'll certainly be a lot faster. And the default speed is also raised to be higher, so that way it feels more responsive. Now what I'm planning on doing with gun variants is to make some of them stupidly overpowered. Now, this isn't exactly the same gun that he has, but the idea is the same. Basically, there's no trade-off when you're aiming down the sight in terms of movement penalties, and it'd be other things like you can run super fast and reload super fast. So the Rebel there, he dies. And as you're also crouched too, and you're prone, there's not as many penalties like with this one by comparison. But it runs out of ammo quickly despite having a higher magazine count. And that's just one of the things I'm thinking of doing, because I figured the Rebels should be fairly fast because they have to do hit and run attacks. So this gun would be like an older stolen version of the UMP that they've taken from like an Imperial factory in World or something. And it works a lot better, but it isn't the latest and greatest, so the Empire says fuck it. Whereas before they used to use shit that was old. Like, the idea is after the first game, since everything was old, they figured it was too prone to failure, so they completely outcast a lot of that old shit, which is where the themes of digital fascism come in. Like, what if you take this concept of Windows 7, XP, and Vista being abandoned, and it's like, well, what if you applied that to people, and the Empire abandoning their people? What would happen if they still, treat it as if it's their property, but rebels want to take the supplies so they can still be alive, Like, the Empire doesn't do anything with the supplies, they just withhold it from people who need it. I mean, I think that would be a fairly relevant topic, since how many fucking times do you have to, you know, fix windows, basically. Exactly. Good video for another time, too, but I'll also make some training course stuff, too, so you can have your Call of Duty training course, but immediately kind of a fix here to some of the weapons. And, yeah, there's also the factions, too, so let me show you the red guy. Ah, shit, did it again. Let me show you the red guy here, and the blue guy with the game view. But yeah, as you can see, he's also all shiny. So this is Rebel Scum, and that's the Imperial Pig. I'm going to call him Fascist Pig, but the default names for them are that. And he uses a black gun, and he uses the camo gun. I still haven't decided on what it'll be. Like, maybe it'll be the Empire has camo guns, but the Rebels don't, because they're not as shiny and new compared to that, right? So, things like that. Another thing I'm planning on doing is making it so the guns don't, like, drop to the floor, which makes them a little hard to pick up. Like, they'll spin around in a circle like Unreal Tournament or Halo 5. I mean, maybe they can drop to the floor when you're killed with them, but I do want them to be somewhat easier to pick up. So the idea is it'll spin around, and that way tons of guns don't get stuck on the floor, and they're a lot easier to pick up and switch to. So you could switch your gun out and it would be spinning or something. And adding ammo crates into various parts of the map. Now with the mall, I'm not going to really add ammo crates, I don't think, because there's already like 4 light machine guns on the top and a few next to the ATMs and the coffee machine, so I think you're good on ammo there. But yeah, just a quick update. So since there's nobody to kill me this time, I'm going to fly into his face and cut the video.